This is the story of East of the Sun and West of the Moon. Let us be off. Away we go. Once, at the edge of a little village far to the north, there lived a mother and father and their many children. They had little money and little food, but they had love enough among them. It was winter, and the snowflakes fell thick and fast. Their bowls at the dinner table were quite empty, and their stomachs growled, when all of a sudden they heard a knock at the door. The father rose, walked to the door, and opened it, and to his surprise, there stood a white bear. "Good evening to you, sir," said the white bear. "And good evening to you," said the kind father. "How would you like to be very rich indeed?" asked the bear. "Rich?" replied the father. "Yes," said the bear. "I can make you as rich as you are now poor." "What must I do in return?" the father asked. "Simply this. Grant me the hand of your oldest daughter in marriage." "That is not my decision to make," said the father. "I must ask my daughter." "Very well," said the white bear. "I'll return in 1 week's time." And with that, the bear turned and walked out into the snowy darkness and was gone. The father closed the door and told the rest of the family what had happened. Well, the oldest daughter now had quite a decision to make. Marry a strange white bear? Such a thing she'd never heard of. But she knew that she would be saving her mother and father and all her brothers and sisters from poverty and starvation. And so she agreed. At the end of the week, there was a knock at the door. This time, the eldest daughter herself opened it and said, "I will go with you, and I will marry you." "Very good," said the white bear, and she stepped out into the night with a bundle of things to take with her. "Are you afraid?" asked the bear. "Well, no," said the maiden. "I'm not afraid." "In that case, climb onto my back and hold tight to my fur." She did so, and they were off. The bear galloped quite quickly, and the maiden found herself moving faster than she'd ever moved in her life before. Over hills, across fields, and into a dark forest. The bear stopped before a high rock. He raised his paw and placed it upon the rock, and a hidden door swung open. The bear led the maiden inside and down a flight of steps, and she found herself in a hall under the rock, a beautifully lit hall, where there was a table laid out with a fine feast for dinner. There were chairs, wonderful carpets, and fine paintings on the walls. The maiden and the bear sat down and had a sumptuous dinner. How lovely it was! She ate as she had not eaten in many, many years. After dinner, it was time for bed. The maiden went into the bedchamber and lay down. But in the dim light, it seemed to her that when her new husband, the white bear, entered and came to bed, why, he didn't look as though he were a bear at all. She could just make out the dim silhouette of a man, but she could not see his face, for there were no candles in the bedchamber. The next morning when she awoke, he was a white bear again. Things went on this way, bear by day, man by night. It was the only thing that troubled the maiden in this comfortable hall under the rock. But the mystery so plagued her that she began to waste away with doubt and curiosity. The bear noticed her troubles. "Dear wife, what can I do to ease your troubles?" he asked her. "Oh, it's nothing much," she said, "but I do wish that I could go home and visit my family once more." "That can be arranged," said the bear, and the next morning he set out with her upon his back. They arrived at a large house, far different from the little ramshackle hut she remembered. "This is where your family lives now," said the white bear, "and you may spend a few days with them. But take warning. Do not let your mother get you alone, for what she has to say to you will bring great danger to us both." The maiden promised she would not speak to her mother alone. In she went, and when the rest of the family saw her, they fell upon her with cries of joy. They hugged and kissed her, for they worried that they would never see her again. She told them all about her life with the white bear, but she did not include the detail about how he looked as though he were a man in the dim light of the bedchamber. Still, the mother could see that there was something troubling her eldest daughter. "Come, daughter, speak to me alone in my bedroom," said her mother. "Oh, no," she said. "Whatever we have to say to each other, we can say out here." But the mother would not let up. She begged and pleaded. She cajoled and wheedled, until finally the maiden had no choice but to agree. Into her mother's room she went. "Now then, dear one," said her mother, "tell me, what is it that truly troubles you?" "Oh, well, you see," said her daughter, and before she knew it, the whole story had tumbled past her lips. "So, looks like a man at night, does he?" said her mother. "Perhaps he's one of the trolls, trying to deceive you. You must see his face to be sure he's a human." "But how can I see his face? There are no candles in the bedchamber," said her eldest daughter. "Take this," said the mother, and she reached beneath her robes and brought out a candle. "Conceal this in your pocket. After your husband has fallen asleep, light the candle, and you may look upon his face without him knowing." Well, the maiden nodded. When the bear came back to fetch her the next day, she climbed up on his back, and off they went. "I know that you have disobeyed me," said the white bear. "Do not do what your mother has told you, or else you will bring calamity and woe upon us both." The maiden promised she would not do what her mother had told her. But after her husband had fallen asleep that night, she could not resist, for curiosity was gnawing at her limbs. She took out the candle and struck a light, and the flame revealed the face of a young man, the most beautiful young man she had ever laid eyes on. She fell desperately in love with him on the spot, and stayed looking at him for many minutes on end. She did not notice the candle burning lower and lower and lower until drop, drop, drop. 3 drops of hot tallow fell from the candle tip and landed on the young man's snow-white nightshirt. He awoke with a start and said, "Oh, what have you done? Oh, my dearest, if you had waited just a little bit longer, I would have been yours forever, and in this human form as you see now. But because you looked upon my face as I slept, I am lost to you. I must journey off to the castle east of the sun and west of the moon, and there I must wed a troll princess with a nose 3 ells long." Well, the maiden was deeply sorry to hear this, you may be sure. "I'll go with you," she said, "and I'll protect you." But the young man shook his head. "No one can go with me," he said. "It's a journey I must make alone." "In that case," said the maiden, I will follow you and rescue you if I may." The young man nodded his head. They both lay down and went to sleep, wrapped in their sorrows. And in the morning, the maiden woke, alone, on the forest floor, as though the underground hall had never existed. She stood and set off. She walked down the forest path, far and far and farther still. When she came out of the forest, there was a great rocky crag, below which sat an old woman, playing with a golden apple. "Good day to you, young miss," said the old woman. "Good day to you, old woman," said the maiden. "What can I do for you?" said the old woman. "Have you seen the young man who was once a white bear, who is off on a journey to the castle east of the sun and west of the moon?" "Ah, maybe I have, and perhaps you are the one who should have been his." The maiden nodded. "In that case, continue on this path until you see my sister, and maybe she'll be able to help you better than I. And take this." She reached out with the golden apple. "You'll need this more than I do myself." The maiden thanked her and walked on. She walked far and far and farther still. Her feet were aching, but still she kept walking. She came upon another rocky crag, beneath which sat an even older woman. This woman held a golden comb. "Good day to you, young miss," said the woman. "Good day to you, old woman," said the maiden politely. "And what do you seek?" said the old woman. "I seek the castle east of the sun and west of the moon, and the young man who was once a white bear." "Ah, perhaps it's you who should have been his," said the old woman. The maiden nodded her head. "In that case, continue on down this path. When you meet my sister, she'll surely be able to help you. And take this." And she held out the golden comb. "You'll need it more than I do." The maiden thanked her and went on. She walked far and far, farther than she had ever walked in her entire life. Her shoes were nearly worn through with holes, and her feet were covered in blisters. She came to another rocky crag, below which sat the oldest woman of all. And this woman had a golden spinning wheel. "Good day to you," said the old woman. "Good day to you," said the maiden. "What can I do to be of help?" said the oldest woman of all. "I seek the young man who was once a white bear, on his way to the castle east of the sun and west of the moon," said the maiden. "Ah, I know the castle of which you speak. If you're to reach it, go to the house of the east wind and ask him to take you. And in the meantime, here," and she reached out with the golden spinning wheel, "you'll need this more than I do." The maiden thanked the oldest woman of all, and on she went. She walked on and on and on, until she came to the far-off place where stood the house of the east wind. She called up to the east wind, "Oh, east wind, I seek the castle east of the sun and west of the moon." The east wind rushed around her. "I cannot take you there myself," said the east wind, "but let us go to the house of my brother, the west wind, and perhaps he will know where it is." The east wind helped her make the journey to the house of his older brother, the west wind, and when they reached the house of the west wind swirled about through the air and rushed about the maiden's shoulders. And she called up, "I seek the young man who was once a white bear, in the castle east of the sun and west of the moon." "I know the castle of which you speak," called the west wind, "but I cannot take you there either. Come, let us journey to the south, to the home of our older brother, the south wind." The east wind and the west wind rushed with her down to the south, and when they reached the house of the south wind swirled up and called down to her, "Ah, I see you, maiden, and I know the castle of which you speak." "Can you take me there?" said the maiden. "I cannot, but I know one who can. It is our oldest brother, the north wind. He has been to the castle, and he can surely carry you there." The three winds brought her far to the north, and there stood the house of the north wind. The north wind rushed icily out and called down to her, "I see you, young maiden, and I know the castle of which you are in search." "Can you take me there?" she said. "I can. We'll set out in the morning." The next morning, the north wind rushed down and swirled the maiden up into the air and carried her off. Wherever they went, great storms raged beneath them, breaking houses to bits and tossing the ships at sea about as though they were mere toys. "Are you afraid?" asked the north wind. "No," said the maiden. Off they went, faster, faster, faster still. The maiden nearly felt her strength give out, but she knew that she must hold on for her life. The north wind finally reached the shore of a place that she had never seen before. It seemed as though she had come to the ends of the earth. And there, with its spires jutting up and seeming to pierce the clouds, stood the castle east of the sun and west of the moon. Now, the maiden knew better than to go right up to the front door, so she sat beneath a window and took out the golden apple, and she began to toss it high up and catch it. Toss and catch, toss and catch. Well, the golden apple shone in the sun, and this attracted the attention of the troll princess with her nose 3 ells long. The troll princess opened her window and poked out her head. "You there, lassie," she called. "Yes?" "I'd have that golden apple, for it pleases me." "Well, this golden apple," said the young maiden, "isn't for sale. Not for money, riches, or treasures." "I'll have the golden apple, and I'll have it one way or another. What will you take for it?" said the troll princess. "Just this," said the maiden. "I wish to spend a night outside the door of the young man who was once a white bear." The troll princess's eyes opened wide and then narrowed to slits. She stroked her knobbly troll chin and then said, "We have a bargain." That evening, at sunset, the castle doors opened, and the young maiden was led inside. The troll princess snatched the golden apple and brought the maiden to the door of her husband, the white bear, who was now the young man. Then she went away, leaving the maiden there. But no matter how the maiden knocked and banged and hammered on the door and called out, there was no answer. And in the morning, the troll princess came back and seized the maiden and kicked her out the door. Well, the maiden took out the golden comb and began to comb her hair beneath the troll princess's window. Well, the troll princess poked out her head and said, "Young lass, I'll have that golden comb as well." Well, the golden comb wasn't for sale either, not for money, riches, or treasure, but the maiden would trade it for another night outside the door of the young man. "We have a bargain," said the troll princess. And that evening, the young maiden was led inside again, but it was just the same as it had been the night before. No matter how much noise she made, no matter how she wept and pleaded, there was no answer. And the next morning, the troll princess again threw her out the door. Now, the next day was different from the two that had come before. For the handsome youth, who had once been a white bear, was walking about the castle halls when he heard a whisper coming to him from some prisoners who were being held in the room next door to his own. Young man, the prisoners whispered, "do you know that there is a maiden who calls out to you each night, and you have not awoken?" The young man was shocked to hear this. And that evening, when the troll princess brought him his evening drink, he looked at it with suspicion. "Thank you for my drink," he said to the troll princess. "Would you please shut the window? I'm getting a draft." And when the troll princess went to shut the window, he threw the drink into the fire, suspecting, rightly, that it contained a sleeping potion. And when the troll princess turned back around, he pretended to have finished drinking the drink in its entirety. "Ah, wonderful," he said. "Thank you very much. And now I must get some sleep. Good night." The troll princess, with her nose 3 ells long, went away and closed the door behind her, never suspecting that she had been tricked. And of course, that day, she demanded the golden spinning wheel from the young maiden, who insisted upon one more night outside the youth's door. But this night, because he had not drunk the sleeping potion, the young man who had once been a white bear heard his wife's voice calling out to him. He arose from his bed and opened the door, and they fell into each other's arms, laughing and crying with joy. "Tomorrow," said the youth, "was to have been my wedding day to the troll princess, but now I'll not have her. I'll have you instead. When I let you into the castle, all you'll have to do is a bit of washing, and then you'll be mine and I'll be yours." And he told her the whole plan. The next day, all the trolls of the castle assembled in the great hall, along with the troll princess in her wedding dress, and her mother, the great troll queen. But before the wedding could begin, the young man said, "Just a moment. I want to make sure that my new bride can wash my nightshirt." And he held up the nightshirt with the 3 spots of tallow. "I haven't been able to get this clean." "Easy enough," said the troll princess, and she took hold of the nightshirt and dipped it into a tub of soapy water. But no matter how she scrubbed, the drops of tallow would not come out. In fact, they grew bigger and grimier. "You fool," said their mother, the troll queen. "Let me try, and she took the white nightshirt, and she began to scrub even more vigorously. But the shirt became dirtier still, and no matter how all the trolls of the castle scrubbed and ground and gnashed their teeth, the shirt grew dirtier and dirtier in their troll fingers. "Why, you're the dirtiest pack of trolls I've ever seen," said the young man with a toss of his head. "I suspect the young lass who sits outside our castle window could wash this shirt clean in no time at all." He went to the door and opened it and called out to her. Now in came the maiden. "Can you wash this shirt clean?" She nodded her head. "I believe I can." And she took the shirt, and no sooner had she dipped it into the tub of soapy water than it came away as fresh and as clean as the day on which it had been made. When the trolls saw this, they grew so angry that they burst into thousands and thousands of pieces, which were blown away on the wind. The maiden and the youth let all the prisoners out of their rooms. They scooped up all the troll riches their arms could carry, and they made their way out the castle door. They journeyed far, far, and far to a distant land, and never once did they return to the castle east of the sun and west of the moon.